How you guys doing? This is Isaac Eubank, and this is MMA Fight Talk. I'm here with Rich Clementi. Man, I'm super excited. This guy's been around so long. He's got so much knowledge, you guys. This is the episode to tune into. Man, right off the bat, I just want to thank you, Rich, for helping me out, man, and doing this for me. There's so much I want to get into it with you about, and so many questions I want to ask about. But right off the bat, let's just talk about the elephant in the room, man, and that's just Bellator 149, man. There's a couple of guys in there that are fighting that you fought before, and I really want to know what your take on this fight's going to be because I mean you finished both these guys, so if anybody's going to know, it's going to be you. So let's hear it, bro.
Yeah, I actually think this might be the fight of the card.
Really?
What's funny, just to go back, I had refereed one of Derek Campos's fight a few years back, and I remember being in the ring. It was a Louisiana show. It was like USA versus Japan or some shit like that. And man, I mean, this kid was just physical and nasty. I mean, throwing this Japanese kid around, and I'm like, man. And I actually called Robert Rivetta, who I don't believe he's managing at the time, but over the years has managed some of the top talent in the sport. I called Robert up. I was like, hey, man, you should look up this Campos kid. He just fought on the fight card down here. Well, anyway, fast forward a little bit, Bellator rolls around, and then, I'm kind of studying tape on him, and somebody's like, yeah, Rich, you refereed one of his fights. And I'm like, oh, shit, I'm fighting that guy? But needless to say, it worked out in my favor. I wound up choking him out, I think, in the first round. I'm not sure if I remember correctly, but super, super tough kid. And, I think that everybody knows who Melvin is and what he has to offer.
Yeah.
If I had to pick between the two, to be honest, as long as Melvin doesn't really connect too hard on him, I have Campos just grinding him out, man. The kid's super, super physical. He's really he's fast. He's got great athleticism, and he's mean too. And Melvin's one of those guys that if he gets put behind the eight ball a little bit, I think he struggles.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he does too, man. I think a lot of it though has to do with his mentals, And I've trained with Melvin, and
Yeah,
I've seen
you and
him.
Saul Solis used to, right? You used to get
Yes,
down there. Uh-huh.
yeah, yeah, Metro Fight Club, and I've seen Melvin fight, and when he's on, he's on, man. The dude's on, and he's gonna land one of those punches, And so I'm rooting for the kid. I'm hoping he lands those punches. I like to see him go. I like to see his mood up. Campos, I think he has his hands full, but like you said, he's a scrapper too, so it's going to be a good fight for Melvin. If Campos does is able to pressure Melvin and eke this fight out, man, it's going to be a good thing for him and his career. And I don't know what's next for Melvin after that.
Yeah, yeah. And Melvin's in a tough spot. He doesn't perform well against Campos. I wouldn't even be surprised if he doesn't get cut by Bellator. So, and then, I mean, I always need somebody to come over and rake the leaves out front and do stuff like
Oh
that.
man.
So, hey Melvin, if you're watching, you can always come over, man. I got something for you. I'll find you some work, brother.
Oh, it's like that, man. Man, cool deal, man. That's funny. I was looking over some of your stats, and it says here 69 fights. Is that correct? 69 fights is what you've had?
Oh no, man! There's way more than that. It's just I fought back in the day. I remember fighting on a few of Jamie Levine shows back in Florida when it was illegal, and one of my favorite fights against Crazy Horse. I don't even know if that one's on there or whatever, but there was no commission and stuff like that.
Oh
So
wow.
you could probably add about 10 more to that list or so. But yeah, I've had a few, and my body's feeling it. I still try to get in there. It was funny. I have two really good up and comers. A guy named Zach Fears and this killer at 185, Brendan Allen from here. And I love both guys to death. But it's funny because I just showed. I work in pain management right now. Go figure.
Oh
But
wow.
really, for my own selfish reasons, I wanted to find out as much in the industry as I could, just because I'm so banged up. That's what got me started. Anyway, now I'm kind of obsessed with it. But I showed Zach like my MRI on my back, and he's like, "Damn," because all the young guys make fun of me at the gym because I put limitations on myself now. And they're always
Yeah.
like picking old jokes and shit. And he
Yeah.
looked at my back yesterday. He's like, "That's you?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's me, man." So it's just like any other professional sport, man. You do the grind for long enough, it's gonna take its toll.
Yeah, and that's good, man, that you're still in there. I was just talking with one of my friends on a previous podcast about Ronda Rousey and her coming out saying that she was feeling thoughts of suicide and stuff like that. And I did want to get your thoughts on that, and also her coaching, your thoughts on her coaches, man, because it seems like you're an active coach. You're in there with the guys, you're grinding it out with them, and you take a personal interest in the direction that they're going in. And that's so important to have in a coach because I mean without that it's just all on you. I mean it's all on you anyway. You're the
Yeah.
person that's going to be in the cage fighting. Win or lose, they're going to get paid. So I mean it really takes a special person to take that extra interest in a fighter and help them elevate themselves, to that next level.
Yeah, you see a lot of the guys that do this sport. That's how I always know the guys that truly love it, love martial arts, man, love mixed martial arts, love the grind. And the guys that just do it because it's kind of a hot thing to do. They're blessed with some natural God talent, and then when they get pushed or broken in the ring, they hang it up, or once they can't fight anymore for whatever reason, they just fizzle out in sport. I love this stuff, man. I mean, I wrestled as a kid. There's just something very unique and special about, one-on-one, man-on-man type combative sports, and I think it's the pinnacle of any type of competition because you're fighting yourself on every day on training. I want to give up. I want to push harder, and then at the end of it all, the grand finale is to test it against some other dude that has the same exact agenda.
Yeah.
So it's something special about the Ronda stuff. I have a hard time with that because again, it's like if you truly understand the sport, like if you truly understand it, if you understand what it's really about, you'll embrace the loss, almost learn to love it in a sick, sadistic type way. And that's what pushes you to get up there and get better. And I'll tell you, to be honest, the loss for me always almost seemed like more of a growth spurt in my life, more of a life changing event than the win ever did. I mean, I went into every fight expecting to win, regardless of
Yeah.
what was actually on paper. I mean, if you don't have that attitude, you're in the wrong fucking sport. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah,
But
100%.
it was like when I lost. I mean, it was like a catapult as far as my growth as an individual, as a
Yeah.
human being, as just like what do I know about myself, and just constantly reevaluating and stuff. So I would almost create like this type of like computerized system in my head that would just constantly reevaluate and try to make myself better. And that's what I loved about it, man. I mean, the win was almost like, yeah, this is great, woohoo, let's go party, go to the club and stuff. But the losses were truly the growth of who I am today. So she probably doesn't know that as much. I mean, I'm surprised. I mean, when you're that high on the judo scene that she was and stuff, I mean, she's lost in judo, so I mean, it must not been that big of a shocker. But at the same token, this sport, it's so funny. I've seen it from top to bottom, from the top of the crest to the bottom of the hills at time. But it's like so many people, they feed into you. It's like they almost build you up, and it's very easy. I've seen so many people, once they have success, they get pulled away from the people that they care about, and what their original goals were, because this person says this and this person says that, and you get so fed up in all of it, man, that when it comes crashing down, like it was all built on empty, weak stilts anyway.
Yeah.
So that's where I think the big problem comes in, man, with a lot of people is that the fall's going to come. You just have to know it. You expect it. And if you look at adversity as a whole, I mean, let's look at all of her fights. She really hasn't faced that much adversity in her fights. Every fight, I used to go in there with a plan that what I wanted to do, but no matter who the opponent was, I would always visualize the worst thing that he could do to me, and I was always prepared for that. So that way, when it was happening, because it's gonna happen when you fight high caliber people, it's gonna happen. It never rattled me. That's why, I mean, don't get me wrong. If you look back at my career, I might have lost the fight, but I will tell you this: there's not one fight you could pull up on me where you see me turtled up, taking shots, quitting. No man ever broke me in the ring. I may have lost fights, but never broken. And that's where I think a lot of people, they go into these fights a little bit ill prepared, thinking that they're going to dominate, thinking that they're going to just the whole time be this dominant figure. And that's not what fighting is. I mean, if you look at just
Yeah.
a simple definition of fighting, the adversity is going to come. If not, it's not truly a fight.
Yeah. Well, I mean, well, that being said, though, I mean, how much of it do you think can you attribute to the coach, and how they mentally prepare a fighter, and get them ready for that
Oh,
fall?
100%. And that I bet I mean, I'm just saying that I think that she's going to have a pretty hard time coming back. And the reason why I say that, and I don't know her personally, to be honest, but her whole career was built on the idea every time she spoke, every time she did an interview, that I'm invincible. Nobody can beat me. Nobody can touch me. I'm
Yeah.
going to remain the champion. Everything that is ingrained in her head for years that she spoke out of her mouth is now proven to be false. How do
Yeah.
you come above? How do you come above that?
Yeah.
That's the most difficult part. I think if I was a coach and involved in her life as a friend or mentor or whatever like that, you almost have to rebuild the whole model all over again and say, hey, let's really look at this. Because
Hmm.
if she's in her head, she has to be doubting everything that has made her be good for years.
Yeah, for sure. For sure, for sure. Man, that's really some really good insight, man. Well, now, moving on, let's talk about the direction of MMA and where you think it's actually going. Okay. There's a lot of stuff going on with like Reebok and Bellator. Do you think that we need a couple more promotions to help these fighters out? Or do you think that UFC needs to just ride out their contract and renegotiate and rethink and restructure? Or I mean, just what's your opinion on this whole thing?
Man, before we even go into anything, it's really simple, and this is my thought press on it. Process on it is that martial arts was never meant to be a business. If you go back to true traditional, Buddha and Bushido, martial arts was never meant to be a business, and
Hmm.
and that's what that's why I've pulled out of being so much. I mean, I still have my school, and I try to keep things as true as possible. Luckily for me, the gym is not my income source, and
Hmm.
because of that, I'll tell somebody to get the hell out in a quickness. It's not
Yeah.
about student count for me or every way everything that I do is true to my heart, and I try to be very honest about how I think martial arts, excuse me, um, how I think martial arts should be, and that. But yeah, man, I mean, I've seen it change so much. The whole culture of it, has changed from, if you look at the tap out guys on how they brought it from the ground floor. It doesn't even exist anymore.
Yeah.
And it's just so controlled and commercialized, and martial arts is such a personalized thing. And then the worst part is for the guys. I mean, when you talk about fighters, and I mean, I was that guy. But
Yeah.
all these guys coming up. I mean, it's a struggle to try to do this full time and compete, and you got to do other things when you're coming up. So to make all the sacrifices that are involved in it, and usually those people who help you out are the sponsors that help you out along the way, and help you on that journey. And then when you get there, it's like, hey, f you, man. I'm sorry, I can't. You can't be part of my experience anymore. I
Yeah.
just have a big problem with that, and it would be different if there was revenue streams going to the guys like it should. But like for instance, and a lot of people, I don't know this, and I don't even know if it's the same way. Maybe they corrected it, but like I was on the first UFC video game that they did, 2009, I guess. Well, not the very first one, but when they started getting with better technology and stuff like that. And almost all the guys on that video game got a one-time check for $2,000.
Damn.
No residuals, no nothing. Now that game sold over X amount of million copies, X amount of million copies. You
Yeah.
know, so And I've done movies and stuff, and every other industry has residual structures set up and things like that. You could ask my wife, man. I almost didn't cash that check, and I put it in a frame, and I was gonna put like a "fuck you" written across it. You know what I'm saying? Just for general purpose. And I'm like,
Oh
nah, you
man.
know what? I want some new stuff. I'll go cash it. Hell, but you're dealing with a lot of guys who they see a little bit of money. The Ultimate Fighter constantly creates a new crop of guys who will fight for peanuts. That's
Yes.
part of the problem right now. I
Yeah.
think personally, I think the Ultimate Fighter, the way that it's structured, is a huge problem for the sport. Like when I first started fighting in the UFC back in like UFC 40 something, you know, everybody that fought in UFC, I mean, it was like the same guys. Everybody knew who they were. And even if you fought overseas in Japan or something, you commanded X amount of dollars because you were the top cream of the crop. Well, now the UFC's almost kind of flooded the market with almost too much talent, like where they just bring guys in who have 2 or 3 fights. Oh, you're a UFC veteran. No, we'll cut you. And now guys can't even make the type of money on other shows really because they've
They can't build
downgraded.
themselves.
It's
Yeah.
simple supply and demand, if you
Yeah.
look at it that way.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, it's really turned into kind of a nasty business, and I hate that for martial arts because like I love it, I love it.
Yeah.
I love fighting, and I hate for guys, and you see this too. You see guys nowadays getting in the UFC with 2, 3 fights. It's like what the? I mean, it makes me scornful because I'm a guy that like like an infantry troop guy that like went through the trenches and shit like that.
Yeah.
Fought the top guys in the world, and yet you get these guys who are getting instant opportunities for what? You didn't
Yeah.
deserve it. You didn't
Sages.
deserve shit because you got
Yeah.
spiky hair and a cool color in it. You know what I'm saying?
Dude,
That
let me
doesn't
tell
mean
you,
shit in my
I,
world.
I feel you, and I don't feel it's fair either, And but it's almost a lesson. I mean, it's weird because the game is morphing really fast, and boxing, you got fighters. It's almost the same story in boxing. You just don't hear about it. The fighters that are managed well and that do well, they end up getting paid. But
Yeah.
it's the same thing almost, right now with the UFC. Sage Northcutt. I've trained with the kid, know him, know his parents. His dad's a businessman, and because of his dad, the kid's getting paid.
Yeah.
It's not a skills thing anymore. It's a business thing, and you're right, man. It's sad, but it's. I mean, take a note, guys, because this is where it's going. And if you guys, want to get paid and pay for your
You have to
training,
play the
you
game.
got to
You have
play
to
that
play the game,
game
man.
exactly.
And
It's
that's what I hate, man. You're seeing these guys, and I know this to be fact. I mean, I know certain fighters that have went to different type of coaches that have helped them create their personality. I mean,
100%.
what the
Yeah.
fuck is that? I was like, you have somebody create my personality. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? But
It,
it's a
it's weird.
facade.
It's weird. It is a facade. But I mean, I know you have been in the game for a long time, and so have I, man. And I know you remember the days of the coaches saying, "Hey, man, just be humble." Nobody likes that. Nobody wants to hear that. And then you get guys like,
Yeah, I was never that guy, unfortunately.
you know what I'm saying? But people do say that. And then
Yeah, no doubt.
there's always those coaches that are like, "Hey, man, don't throw those spinning kicks," or don't throw that. This is a waste of time. And then you get guys like Conor McGregor that come out, they talk shit, they throw spinning kicks, and they're effective. So I don't know, man. It's like this double-edged sword. It's where it's cool that guys like Conor are getting paid because I mean I think the fighters should get paid,
Yeah.
but it sucks that they have to become basically a circus monkey in order to get
Yeah,
paid.
and see, I think that type of pressure alone, like, because I mean, I love. Don't get me wrong, I love stand up, I love jujitsu, I love sambo, I love it all. But the one thing that I'm extremely passionate about, especially for youth kids coming up and stuff, but it is the wrestling aspect of fighting. And
Hmm.
the worst part is I feel that the pressure of the sport to fight a certain way. I see these wrestlers all the time that have amazing wrestling credentials, and you see them standing up for 2 rounds.
Yeah.
It's like, what the hell are you doing? You know
Yep.
what I'm saying? Like,
Trying to earn that
but
bonus.
yeah, and the pressure of the sport for them to perform a certain way,
Hmm.
so I, the purity of the person's skill set, it bothers me that the business is changing kind of how you should go out there and compete. No, you should go out there and win.
100%. Finish the fight. When you
Yeah.
go out there, finish the fucking fight. But it's surprising to me, though, right? That being said, that when Ronda Rousey was going out and finishing, within seconds, just doing simple takedowns, and doing arm lock, boom, fight's done. There's real no, like, fight of the night, stand up, and all that kind of stuff. So if people could adopt that mindset and pull it off, they might have a way to go that way as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just go out there and finish the fight. It's hard though. I mean, these guys are, it's crazy because these guys are getting super athletic. What do you think about the change in the actual athlete themselves? It's more, it seems to me that they're athletes first and martial artists second.
It is definitely a young guy sport right now, put it that way.
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, I love athleticism. I love just human performance in any way. It doesn't matter whether it's ballet or whatever. So, to see these guys who are just so quick, just pulling off just reckless abandonment type moves, I mean, it's so impressive. So, I mean, then you'll get guys in there like Damian Maya, who has, not a lot of athleticism, but he's such a machine as far as what he does that, it doesn't matter that who he goes against and the athleticism means nothing, So you
Hmm.
see a cool controversy there and conflict of the two things, skill versus athleticism
But it
sometimes,
takes that high level skill like Damian
Yeah.
Maya to pull it off.
Like that Anthony Johnson, Rich Clementi skill. Remember that?
Yeah,
No,
man.
but I love that, man. I love seeing a guy that just he's just so good at his craft, man, that it doesn't matter. He's just able
Yeah,
to pull it off. It's just sweet still seeing that.
yeah. What I like seeing, man, is I like seeing guys like you that still got their head on their shoulders. They can complete a full sentence. I think that you got out of the game at the right time. What are your thoughts on getting out of the game? Do you still feel the itch sometimes when you see these guys in there? You're like, oh man, come on, this is nothing. I can do this. I mean,
Oh,
yeah,
constantly, and
yeah.
I'm turning 40 right now, so my thing is I'm trying to get back in shape enough to do maybe some grappling tournaments again, just to get that competitive itch out of the way. My ribs are really too banged up. I can't take any punches. My ribs and my ankles, so I have no mobility. And if I take a body shot, I'm like just done. My ribs are like glass. But God bless me, man, with two sons, and they're both so competitive that I get a lot of that inner selfishness. I get to
Vicariously, yeah.
see it through them, man. And again, I don't train a lot of guys. I actually kicked a lot of guys out of my program because I felt that like there was certain guys that were missing pieces of the equation, and I felt like I was putting a lot of effort into them, and no matter how hard I tried, because they're missing a piece of the pie, they just can never be.
Yeah.
So I decided, again, because like my gym is it's truly run like a church, to be honest, and I let people come in that I want in there, and if you don't fit that criteria, you go train down the road. You know what I'm saying? There's 10 other gyms that'll just, if you have a heartbeat and $100 a month, they're gonna have you come in.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
I was real lucky, and it was just kind of again doing what I do now. I have a few medical distributorships. Anybody that does device sales or understands kind of high volume medical sales, it's a very competitive market. It's like dog eat dog, and there's a lot of ups and downs. So the psychological feelings that I still get doing what I'm doing now were the same type of things that I loved about fighting.
Hmm.
So I'm really blessed, man, to be honest. I mean, one thing I remember fighting, and I tell this to the younger guys right now. There was times when I fought in the UFC. I specifically remember certain conversations with certain UFC staff members, like, "Oh, Rich, you shouldn't dedicate your time to do that. Oh, Rich, we don't want you doing promotions and being involved in the UFC at the same time. It's kind of a conflict of interest." And I
Yeah.
remember this. I'll tell a story. I used to train with Jens Pulver all the time and help him get ready for his fights. And Jens was a guy who was entrenched at the UFC in a time, multiple titles at the time, and was at the pinnacle of his career. And then I also remember going to Monty Cox, who was my manager and Jens' manager's house. And he had everything that I seen, the big house, a nice garage, cars and stuff like that. And Jens was still, even as he was a UFC champ at the time, was still struggling. And
Yeah.
that's when it was kind of hit me hard. And I was like, well, what's really important here in life. So I while I was fighting, I always made very smart decisions and invested my time, even though, I reached a high pinnacle level of fighting. Maybe I could have reached a little bit higher, if I would have dedicated just a little bit more. But you know what? Then I wouldn't be also where I'm at today, you
Yeah.
know? So it is a fine balance, I think, but it is an important thing. Like, most every successful entrepreneur that you talk to, I mean, they have multiple eggs in different baskets. So guys that are fighting, I mean, it could be taken away from you in a minute, man. Just one injury and you're just done. So I always think no matter how successful things are going, every person needs to know that that shit could change overnight. So, be smart, get involved in some other things, learn from people who you meet in the sport. Because to be honest, the fame or whatever, the money, that's all great. But the biggest advantage in getting to be a high level fighter, I think, is the networking that you could create. And then if you create that good network, no matter what happens afterwards, uh, things are going to be okay.
Cool. Yeah, for sure, man. That is some. I think that's some legit advice, man. Some legit advice. Real quick, man. Let's go over your predictions for this Bellator. Real quick. Let everybody know who you think is gonna win. Just the like the top the main card.
Okay, I think the Kimbo fight's gonna be. I think Kimbo's just gonna smash him, bro. I was watching some of that warm up, and maybe he was putting on a show for us, right, or something. That shit was straight horrible. That's all I got to say. And I mean, I don't even mind saying it was horrible. Um, and then the Hoist Gracie Ken Shamrock fight. Like, how can that not put a smile on your face? Like,
Right?
it just does. I seen a picture on Facebook today where all the guys, from the original Lions Den, I was like, that's right, dude. That's just awesome.
Yeah, it is.
So I I don't even care who wins. I just think it's awesome that both guys. I mean, people might criticize or whatever, and I'll tell you this as an old guy myself, like criticize when you're 45, 50 years old, still training to get in there and sling around.
Yeah,
I mean, those
100%.
both those guys, no matter what you think of them, balls of steel, man. I
Yeah.
love it. I could care less who wins. I'm just gonna be eating popcorn, going, yeah, punch him in the face.
Face. Oh shit,
And
man.
then like I said, I actually have compost slipping away on that. I do. I just for some reason. So those
Yeah.
are those are the ones I'm really concerned with. I do personally like the direction that Bellator is going to. I think it kind of has a little bit of a pride feel to it. What people don't understand is one thing I like about Bellator is that sure they might be putting on fights that people might say like, well, what is that? But anyway, you have to have the fights that draw the general interest in because you know what? Like for instance, let's use Campos again. I think he's an amazing fighter. I'm in the sport. I understand him a little bit.
Yeah.
10 out of 10 average fan doesn't know who he is. So they're going to
Exactly.
tune in to watch the Kimbo Circus or Ken Shamrock versus Royce Gracie,
100%.
and then what they're going to do is get to see an amazing guy like Melvin and Campos fight at Campos, and they're going to be like, oh, wow, I'm a fan of that guy now. So
Yep.
sometimes I think you have to have those names that draw in the general public, and then they're going to be fans of the other guys as well. So I think it's smart marketing. I understand why they do it. So, but I think a lot of the general public doesn't look at it that way.
For
General
sure.
fight fans, anyway.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I mean I think it's cool, man. It gets, Bellator's name out there regardless, you
That's
know.
what it's about, man.
So, yeah, man. Is there anything that you've got coming up business wise or anything you want to get to the people, let the people know? I know Alan Belcher, he started up his own little podcast and stuff like that. I know he's a good friend of yours.
Yeah, we go over and we train every Sunday. We kind of a Saturday we do a little joint training with some of my top guys and go over there and bang heads with some of his. So
Cool deal. Can you let people know what your Twitter is and where to find you and stuff like that?
yeah. Most of the time, to be honest, I don't try to do a million social medias because I stay pretty busy. But I am pretty active on Facebook, man. Just Rich Clementi, and I try to keep it real, man. I post a lot of stuff from my heart on there. Get to keep up with my family. I post a lot of my little guy's a murderer, man. He went out to the UFC Expo. He's 9, and he won triple gold out there
Oh
wrestling
wow.
out there. So He's got
Wow.
like probably like 250 submission matches and wrestling matches already.
Wow.
So,
What's his name?
Richie Clementi, little Richie.
Richie, little Richie. Oh
Yeah, he's
man,
jacked
well,
up.
congrats and shouts out to little Richie, man. You keep it up. I actually do see your pictures all the time, little Richie. He's the blonde one, right? The
Yep, yep.
black and
Look,
the
look,
yeah,
cocky
man.
top.
Oh, dude, he's a badass. Keep it up, little Richie, man. You're only moving up, buddy. You're only
No
moving up. You
doubt.
come from some good stock,
No
man.
doubt.
Um, Real quick, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. This has been MMA Fight Talk with Isaac Eubank. I want to thank Rich Clementi for coming in and actually doing this for me. I'm gonna, hopefully have you here in the future, man. We can talk about your kids. We can talk about MMA. We can talk about whatever you want, bro. You have an open invite to whenever you want to come do this, man.
Yeah. Cool,
So,
man. Guys, enjoy Bellator on Friday.
yeah, for sure. Hey, thanks a lot, you guys. Peace.